Okay, students, we're going to start our final lecture for Chapter 10. It's going to be about bond discounts and premiums, which you should be familiar with, but we're going to talk about amortizing the actual dollar amount of the discount or the premium. We'll do a practice problem, and we'll give you some other practice problems in the book to look at because there's some resources available to make this, I hope, very digestible and understandable for you. First of all, we got to understand that when bonds are issued at a discount or premium, remember the company does not collect the same amount of cash as it says on the bond. They get more than the principal in the case of a premium. They get less than the actual principal amount in the case of a discount. So what this means is the actual cost of the interest that we record on the books of the company is not the same as the interest paid out to the bondholders. It's kind of like depreciation in that sense, where we're taking a paper cost despite the fact that the cash we pay out is not the same as the paper cost. All right. Why would we do this? Because we want to spread it out over the bond's life, and because we actually get a write-off in the case of a discount because the interest expense to the company is more than the actual interest dollars paid out in cash to bondholders. Okay, so the best way to do this is by taking a look at a problem. This is very, very similar to what's in your book. I've structured it to follow the format very carefully, so hopefully if you read the book and you go through this, you should comprehend it quite well. Let's suppose that Oracle issues a $500,000 grant, $500,000 bond. It's at 6%, it's a 2-year bond, it's issued on January 1st of 2012, and the market rate is at 8%. First of all, discount or premium, you should be able to look at these two interest rates and figure that out. All right, if we're issuing it at 6 and the market rate is 8, hopefully you can instantly see that why would anyone come and buy our bond or invest in us at 6% when they can go out and get 8% on the market. So hopefully you're leaning towards the discount answer here. That's not new material. You should understand that already, hopefully. The issue price of the bond and the dollar amount of the discount or premium, and then record the journal entry of the bond's issuance. All of these, in fact, the journal entry for the first and second interest payments, most of this has already been covered. Okay, B and C, we'll go through that because it's very important to understand it thoroughly. But actually, D and E are the only ones that are new. So let's get into this. Okay, first of all, discount or premium. If the market is earning people 8 and we're offering 6, we're going to have to discount the bond. Find the issue price. This is probably one of the most significant parts of the upcoming exam. You need to be able to do this. So first off, find the actual interest payments to the bondholder. Principal times interest times time. $500,000 times 6%. Remember, that's what it said on the bond, not the market rate. 6% times half a year. So half times this times 3, you get $15,000 every 6 months. It did not say otherwise, so you assume every 6 months. And now the next step is to go figure out the present value of the annuity. Okay, so we're going to get $15,000 every 6 months. So there's going to be 4 6-month periods. It was a 2-year bond, so we double the 2 to get 4 half-a-year periods. You take the 8% market rate, not the 6, because this is the value of money out there. That is the interest rate at which you would backdate these payments. So you take 8 divided by 2, because that's an annual rate. 8% per year is 4% every 6 months. Okay, so 2 years means 4 periods. 8% per year means 4% every 6 months. You go to the table B3, present value of an annuity, and you come up with this number, 3.6229 or 3.6299 multiplied by the $15,000 value of each payment, and you come up with a present value right now of $54,449. That's the value of getting these payments 4 times over the next 2 years. All right. Then you get your principal back. Present value of the principal is the amount of the principal, $500K. Now you use the same factors here. You don't have to think too much. Hopefully you did it right up here. But over 2 years, well, that's 4 periods of 6 months each. The 8% interest rate per year is 4% per 6 months. So you go to the present value of an amount table, that's B1, and you go and get the factor from row 4, column where I equals 4, and you get 0.8548. This number times $500,000 of principal gives you $427,400, and you add these two up and you're going to get $41,849. Subtract them from $500,000 and you can see clearly that the discount amount is $18,151. Okay, so you've done A and B. If you've come this far and you followed this and you can do this on your own, you're doing quite well. This will be a significant part of the test along with Chapter 9, but if you can get this far, you're doing pretty good. The amortization of this 18,000 we're going to cover next is actually a small part of the test. Okay, but this is the bulk of it. If you understand all this, you're doing good. All right, journal entry upon issuance. Need to know how to do this as well. We took in cash of 41,849. We actually have a liability of 500,000. This goes up with a credit. This one, cash, goes up with a debit. And so debits don't equal credits. We clearly have to have an extra debit that is called discount on bond payable. That is an owner's equity account that says 18,151, so that the debits equal this credit. Now this is an owner's equity account. What's new starting this point forward is we're going to amortize that over the life of the bond. It's only 4 years. I'm sorry, it's only 2 years. So that is 4 payments. So we're going to take that 18,151 and divide it by 4. You'll come up with a number 4538. And here's the new piece. Here's how this affects the interest payments. Okay? We know from a couple slides ago, I'm going backwards here. We know that the interest payments here are 15,000. And that's what we've been putting. Okay, really what we need to put is the 15,000 cash, which does go out to the bondholders, but the actual cost on our books is not only the 15,000, it's 15,000 plus the discount spread out over the life of the bond. Since there's only 4 payments, we take 18,151, the total discount, divide by 4, because there's 4 periods, and you get 4538. You add that in here, and actually the interest expense that we record on the books is bigger than the cash we send out to the bondholders. So 15,000 plus 4538 gives me 19,538, and that is my interest journal entry right there for the first interest payment. Next question was second interest payment. Well, guess what? It's exactly the same. Doesn't change. Okay, just like the other interest payments, when there were no discounts or premiums, you spread this out over the life of the bond. So you're going to get 4 of these. The next one would be June 30th, 2013. The final one would be December 31st, 2013. And then you'd also pay back the principal. Okay, so what happens here is you need a table, okay, that helps you diagram all this. You may be asked to duplicate this on your homework or on the test. Here's how it looks. You got really 4 periods. I think it's wisest to start with period 0, which is actual issuance of the bond, because you start off with the value of the money you collect plus the discount right here. And remember that the discount divided by 4 is really 4538. Okay, so what happens here is they'll ask you to construct a table that tracks the unamortized discount. What this is each successive row of the table means that the unamortized discount is reduced by 4538 every time you make an interest payment. Remember back here, we made an interest payment on June 30th? Well, at June 30th then, that amount that we have to amortize is dropped down by 4538. It's very much like accumulated depreciation. Okay, the book value is decreased by the amount of depreciation we took. In this case, in chapter 10, the bond discount amount is decreased by the amount as we take the 4538 off every time. Okay, so then we get 13,613. Next time you take off another 4538, you get 9075, and so on and so forth. And where do you think it ends up at the end? Well, it's going to end up at 0, of course, because this is spread out each time. So you subtract it 4 times and you're going to get 0. Now the carrying value, this amount here, goes up by 4538. So it goes up there, goes up here. And of course, if you look at the next slide, here's what you get. This number drops by 4538 every time. And this is just a little rounder, okay? This number here would actually be 1, but ignore the rounding. I've corrected for rounding here. These numbers went up by 4538 every time. As you go down the carrying value column, these numbers here went down by 4538. And of course, the sum of these two is the exact par value of the bond. Okay, so you may be asked to duplicate this table, whether you only had to do these 2 columns or whether you had to do this third sum column as well. You should understand how that works. Your homework is very much like that. You may have a test question very much like this. There's some practice problems in the book that I'll refer to later that are very much like this. And so I hope that is fairly clear. This is not the bulk of chapter 10. This is the last piece of chapter 10. If you understand this much right here, you'll be doing pretty well. Okay, everything after the bond calculations and finding the discount is a smaller percentage of the points on the test, but you should still know how to do it. Okay, one more piece, right? What does it look like for premiums? My slide's kind of out of order here, but what's different about a premium versus a discount? Well, remember that, and this is referring exactly to the example in the book on page 418 and page 419. They have a bond there that's issued at 100,000, but they collect a premium of 3,546. Therefore, they actually got 103,546 in cash. The discount on a discount was a debit. Now on a premium, it becomes a credit. Well, what that means when you make your interest payments is you're spreading this out, you're amortizing it over the life of the bond. This one was also 2 years, so it's 4 different payments. 3,546 down here divided by 4 gives me 887. That's how much I get to decrease the interest expense. We actually pay out $6,000 to the bondholders, and in this case, our interest expense is lower. Because we collected extra money when we issued the bond, we don't get to claim the full $6,000 even though we pay out $6,000 cash. That's what's different. Okay, so with a discount, remember this one up here was a debit. With a premium, it becomes a credit. Down here, this was a credit for discounts. Now it becomes a debit. But it makes sense, right? You should not be able to take as much interest expense because you collected extra money up front. And back on the discount, I'm switching back now. Back on the discount slide, remember that you did not get to take, or you got to take an extra discount up here or an extra expense up here because you did not collect the full money up here on this one. I hope that makes sense. The tables look very much the same on these. Okay, each payment is the same here with a premium. Notice if this was a debit account here, premium on bond payable, then this one also is a debit. These are exactly the same all the way through the life of the bond. At the end of the bond, the only difference is this. You put your unamortized discount here, your carrying value is more than the par value, and this time it comes down by 887 every time. This one actually comes down by 87 every time. So what's happening here is you still get to the bottom here, but instead of these two being added to get the par value, you have to take the difference. So the carrying value is over the par value, and you subtract this and you get the par value. This one here, they both came down by 887, but there's still the difference between these two columns is 100,000, the par value. This comes down by 887, this comes down by 887. The difference is still 100,000. And at the last one, you can see that there's a rounder of 2. In other words, if I take 887 away from 885, I'll actually get a negative 2 here, but I've corrected for that. 100,000, 885. If I take away 887, I'd get less than 100,000 by $2, but I put it back in just as because that's all it is. It's a rounding error. Okay, but that's the difference between a discount and premium. Okay, I strongly recommend you read page 419 of the textbook. That's where this table is, and this should make sense to you. Okay, there's other practice problems here. If you look in the book on page 418, numbers 4, 5, and 6, they have answers on page 439. On page 421, you have some quick check problems, 7 and 8. Those can help you. If you want to check those and check answers, that builds your confidence, and hopefully this lecture helps you with that. Okay, there's a new assignment, week 11 homework. It covers only the straight line method of amortizing bond discounts and premiums. And so that week 11 assignment, because it was not originally in your syllabus, I'm giving you 10 extra credit points or up to 10 extra credit points if you get the full 20 points on that assignment. Okay, it's due next Monday. It's due the following Monday, and if you do all the problems, you have a chance for 10 extra credit points. Okay, there you go. That is the end of our chapter 10, and so hope that worked for you.